It's my pleasure this morning to introduce our first speaker, our esteemed Scott Shire. Scott is doing a speaking after dinner speech. He's asked to, it can be on a variety of topics, but it's to be entertaining and lightly amusing. He's to hold our attention and to have a recognizable theme. Other than that, there's not a whole lot of requirements in speech, other than to use all the skills that we have learned in all the other projects in Toastmasters. So get out your pen, mark down all the tools and techniques that he demonstrates, and I look forward to this speech from Scott.
It's a battle out there, a war of words. Haven't you heard some of the pollsters going on, some of the campaigns, advertising, all the battles in the stores? It is a war of words. It is a new word order that we're experiencing going on right now. I heard a pollster, political pollster, analyst named Frank Luntz. Anybody heard of Frank Luntz? Neither had I. Oh, but 3 have. Very good. You're way ahead of me then. I went through a whole workshop on the new word order and how words that used to have a meaning we thought had a certain emotional response to them no longer is the case. Things have changed. So last week, I want to share with you some of the things that Frank was educating our politicians, in particular the Republican politicians, and even more specifically, the Republican Governors Association, on how they need to change the way they approach the people of the Occupy Wall Street. I thought it was fascinating hearing how things have to shift because of how our minds think. Now, Frank is the author of a book called Words That Work. It's not what you say, it's what they hear. And really important, especially with all of us as being Toastmasters, here as we're enjoying our meals, but as we prepare to go out into the world, we have to think about not what we think our words mean, but how they're going to be perceived and received by our listeners. So Frank was telling these governors, these Republican governors, that as they're going out, that the Occupy group is really winning, that they have a mantra of pay your fair share, which kind of goes hand in hand with sort of the Democratic position of tax the rich. And that's got resonance that's taking traction out there. And he's saying that the Republican side, and I'm not saying we have to pick Republican or Democrat, this is just some of the perspective that he's providing for us to chew on while we're chewing on our words, or on our food. Let's chew on these words. That he says we tend to hold up capitalism. Our country is founded on the free market capitalistic spirit. We think that's good. That's what destroyed communism. Capitalism, that's what we tend to hold out there as a Republican Party. And he's saying that the problem is people now associate capitalism with being immoral. And with movies like Wall Street, it's associated with greed. Not so good. So he's saying the new words that we need to use are economic freedom and free market. So we need to be, again, speaking to Republican governors, we need to be the purveyors, the promoters of economic freedom and the free market. So I thought that was interesting, how words change. Capitalism used to be good, now it's not so good. Going on, he also, and I'm sharing this with you so that you can put it into your own perspective, but also understand as you're listening to all the shows, and again, as we get closer to elections, I mean, is it still a year away, elections? And yeah. Holy cow. I feel like it should be next month with the amount of fervor that's going on. But I think we're going to hear more and more of this. So I think this will give you some fascinating perspective and insight as you listen to all the newscasts and all of the political, what do you call those things when the people come in and debate? All the debates going on. So one of the things is tax the rich. The counter to that should be, gee, should we take money from hardworking Americans? Now, we generally don't want to take money from hardworking Americans. We don't want to he's saying the Republicans need to be the protectors of hardworking taxpayers. Now, most of us, if we're working, feel we're working hard, and if you're working and being paid for it, you're being taxed. So most of us can fit in that category of, and we want to be protected, the hardworking taxpayers. On a side note, I thought about that too, tax the rich. Eventually, everybody gets classified as being rich and gets taxed more too. That's how our whole tax system started. When it started back around 1910, they were only taxing 2% of the rich, and now it's come to where we are today. Now, how does Frank come into some of these grand statements about what's good and what's bad? It's fascinating that he brings groups of 50+ people into a room, has them watch a speech, and gives each of them a little dial, kind of an emotional dial meter that goes from 1 to 99. And as you're hearing things that you like, you dial it up, all the way up possibly to 99. And as someone who's speaking says things you don't like, you crank it down as low as 1. He then charts all of those, all the 50+ people are listening to see how do their responses key in with individual words that are being used. And he also has all those people that are dialing pre-sorted or pre-identified, so he knows for each dial, that person's Republican, Democrat, male, female, college educated, blue collar, where they're from, so he can correlate and see what are the correlations. And it's really fascinating to see how those things go up and down. Here's a question for all of you. One of the words that came out, who wants a job? Who wants to get a job? Jobs aren't that great. When we think about it, a job is, and that's a lot of work and stuff. Who wants a career? If I could offer you a career, who wants a career? Okay, none of you are jumping out, but generally the population would say, career is good, I want a career. So we don't necessarily want to promote getting people jobs, we want to help promote people getting careers, going into a new career, shifting from one career to a better career, not necessarily a job. I remember my old Amway days, we always said a job is a J-O-B, just over broke. That's a good thing.
I said it's a 4-letter word.
Job is a 4-letter word. Here's another one also that comes up. When you're coming in to negotiate with people, it's important that you compromise, right? So that you get to a resolution. It's important to compromise. No, if you compromise, you're selling out. Nobody wants someone selling out for their positions. So if you're a politician going in, you say, oh man, you came out of a tough battle, but you reached a compromise. The mind says, why, you sold us out. No, what you want to always say is that we reached a spirit of cooperation, and we cooperated together, and here's what we came out with. So cooperation is good, compromise is bad. Now I look at this august group of entrepreneurs and business people. Entrepreneurs are good, right? Sure, from our perspective, but from the rest of the world, entrepreneurs I think are associated more with Wall Street. So it's not so good. So when you want to go out and get political favor for bringing in some new projects into a city, you don't necessarily want to go into the city council and say, I'm here bringing in entrepreneurs and innovators. That's not so good. But if you say that you're coming in, you want to bring in more small business owners who are job creators. Now I know I just said jobs are bad, but creating more jobs is actually, if you're bringing in job creators, small business owners and job creators, that's good. So again, watching those dials and how they go, job creators is a good thing. You just don't want to tell people I'm going to get you a job. I want to get you a career. Now all this goes back to that speech that he was giving last week to the Republican governors, and his finalizing mantra for them was, you want to get people not to blame Wall Street, but to blame Washington, and therefore they need to go and occupy Washington, better yet, reoccupy the White House. So that was his gist. But I also went to a workshop last week specifically on financial advisors. Now that's my career field, and that's what he talked about in a survey for insurance companies. And every year they have him do a similar kind of word thing about what words should they be using for their insurance products, their annuities, their investments. And it varies each year what words are the good words to use. And I thought about it, this has been going on for years. Frank Luntz is not the first one to realize that words are important. How many of you want to buy insurance that protects you from death? Or protects you if you die prematurely? Protect you die prematurely? I've got some great death insurance. Want to buy some death insurance? Nah, it doesn't go over so well, does it?
No.
Perhaps life insurance has a much nicer ring to it, and that's why we sell life insurance. We're not insuring your life, we're insuring you against premature death. But death doesn't go over quite so well. A few other just tidbits for you. As you're talking with people, you want to avoid too much jargon. You also want to avoid fear-based or guilt-based selling. You want to give people a positive, hopeful message. And I'll leave you with one final thought because it just cracks me up how silly sometimes my industry is. With this knowledge, and even the company that was sponsoring who's doing this, is a company that sells annuities. Who really knows what an annuity is? I would challenge you, unless you are working in the insurance field, you don't really know what an annuity is, even if you think you do. There are so many moving parts in there. It's a weird animal. It can be an effective animal, but what they try to do is they throw a whole bunch more riders on them to make them more appealing. And one of the riders that's really popular these days is a guaranteed minimum income benefit. Who wants to be guaranteed minimum income? Anybody want to be guaranteed minimum income? No, the new catchphrase he's saying is investments with protected income for life. Sounds much better. I see I have got a red light, and so I need to protect my ability to win this race in this war of words with the rest of the fine speakers today. I hope that you hear a hopeful, positive message to carry you through the rest of this holiday season with no mace or fighting in the lines. And I hand it back to you. Thank you.
What an interesting subject. Yeah. We'll take a, let's see, we'll take a moment to do the